Hi, this is Curt, and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
Washington, this is just the most bizarre case. I just have there are two things I don't understand about it. But here we have the city of Bellingham had
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been following this right along if you want me to kind of go through it.
because I can't do it without laughing. And I apologize to everybody, including the dead body.
It goes back to 2018. I've got a number of different entries. I think there's probably 8 or 9 different legal proceedings arising out of this, because we've got certainly the civil suits that we're going to talk about here, but we've got some state EMS disciplinary action. We have fire department disciplinary actions, and a lot of different legal issues have come out relative to this case. But what we have is apparently in Bellingham, Washington, the fire stations can be used to basically hold bodies until the funeral home can arrange to pick up the body. So that's sort of problem number one. Problem number two, which I totally understand from a clinical perspective, is that the firefighters or the medics in particular would use cadavers for training to practice intubation skills and different things. One of the things about cadavers is you're supposed to have consent, and you don't just find a body and say, "Ooh, let's practice intubating." So at any rate, they had a gentleman who passed away, and there's no question about that as being an issue. He passed away, but the firefighters, the body was left at a firehouse in Bellingham. Is that where one of our friends' spouse was a firefighter, by the way?
It's sounding familiar, but maybe
Bellingham. I think it might have been where Dr. Beth was a firefighter. At any rate, they practiced intubating on this body. In fact, there was some of the articles about it mentioned the fact that even non-paramedics were practicing. They allowed a staff member, administrative staff member, to give it a shot. But bottom line is, somehow the family found out, and there were claims that were filed by the spouse, by the children, and by the brother of the man who passed away. And subsequently, those led to lawsuits, civil suits, and all of them were settled. The suit against the fire department, and also they named some of the firefighters. 11 firefighters were named in some of these, but the suit by the wife was settled for, I think it was $175,000.
And that's the only one I get, by the way.
Well, okay. And then the kids, the children, and again, what we're talking about, I believe the claim that there are some due process claims, invasion of privacy and so on under the Constitution, that kind of open the door to federal court. The tortious interference with a corpse is more of a state law claim. But then there's intentional infliction of severe emotional distress, negligent infliction of there's a bunch of different ways that creative attorneys are going to find a way to go after the fire department and the personnel. So at the end of the day, the wife's claims were settled. The kids each got $75,000 each. That was settled. But the one kind of joker in the deck was the claim by the brother. And you kind of suggested it, that, how does a brother, you can see the spouse, you can see maybe the kids, but where does the brother? And the suit was filed. I thought an interesting part of this was the suit was filed in federal court because they were alleging certain constitutional violations. Because again, the fire department is part of government, and when government does something to a private citizen, it raises constitutional concerns. So
even a dead one.
Yeah, the dead one isn't the one who's suing, and that creates a little more complexity, because now the family members are the ones that file a suit, and they've got to allege a violation to them, not to the dead person. The person's estate could file, but they're alleging that they were harmed, not the estate was harmed, because the man was dead. They have to allege that they were harmed and that they suffered emotional distress and so on. Bottom line is, big issue was, does the brother have standing to bring the suit? The brother filed the suit in federal court. the federal court now has to look at state law, Washington state law, to determine whether or not the brother has standing under Washington state law. And the federal court said there's no case law here. We don't have a way to determine that. We're a federal court. We deal with federal issues. Yes, we'll handle some state claims, but we don't have basically the jurisdiction to create law in Washington. So what they did was they did a procedure, which, you know, attorneys know, is you certify the question, and both parties will negotiate what is the question that's going to be certified. And then that question then was sent to the Washington State Supreme Court. And the question was essentially, does the brother have standing to bring a claim like this? And I believe it was March of 2021, the Washington Supreme Court said, yes, the brother does have standing to bring this suit. So this has been kicking around. The incident happened in 2018. This has been kicking around now for 5 or 6 years here. And finally, Mr. Fox got his day in court. They start the jury trial because, again, in 2021, the Washington State Supreme Court says in Washington, the brother of someone who has this happen to them has standing to bring the suit. Amazing. And so now the trial starts. Apparently, Mr. Fox was on the stand. He talked about the emotional distress and the pain that he suffered as a result of knowing that his brother's dead body had been intubated repeatedly for training firefighters. And shortly after that, the case was settled. The parties must have adjourned. The offer was made. You know, Mr. Fox accepted it, and it was for magically $175,000, basically the same as the victim's wife had received.
And I don't even know what the lesson is here. If you have a dead body in your firehouse, don't mess with it.
Well, that's part of it. But, I think that sometimes we get very clinical. We get very objective and removed from the emotional connection with this. And we say, oh, wow, we got a body here. We haven't had one in a couple of months. I haven't done my intubation, or maybe I was a little shaky the last time I did it. Let's train, or maybe we have some new people. Let's do some practice. And it's not, you're not intending to desecrate the person's body. You're intending to improve your skills and be able to be better at what you're doing. The missing component there is an understanding of the legal implications. And we've got to understand that dead body, beyond just being a corpse that we could use for training purposes, is a person that there's people that are going to be upset.
And look, I viewed this as a different way. I was surprised that there wasn't a potential criminal action, right? It decided because there's got to be a cause of death determination, presumably. I don't know anything about Washington state law, but presumably—
I'm going to check my database while you talk, because there may well have been, it's just slipping my mind, but go ahead.
Okay. Right. I mean, the obvious issue on the criminal side is you've got a dead body. There's no cause of death yet confirmed. The ME hasn't done an autopsy or a confirmation of the cause of death. And so you're messing with the body, right? You're altering potentially a body. If you broke a tooth, if you hurt their, lungs somehow through intubation, whatever you're doing, you could be not desecrating a body, but hurting a body. So I usually try to find these lessons in everything we do, and usually I can, but this one is pretty unique to the state of Washington. I'm not sure how many other states have dead bodies brought to firehouses, but nonetheless, if there's a dead body anywhere, and you don't need to touch it, don't touch it, right? Because you could be altering the cause of death unless you're trying to save the person or remove them from harm or, something in the line of duty. Let's not mess with a dead body. And in many states, right? Many states have criminal actions related to what you've done to a dead body. And New York has a whole bunch of things. It's kind of gross, a litany of things you could do to dead bodies, which you shouldn't do, which you could be criminally charged for: burning, desecrating, having sex with. I mean, all bad things. What does they call it? Necrophilia, right?
Yeah,
all bad things don't do to dead bodies. And practicing on them, unless they're donated or, unless there's consent and a release and all the things, don't touch the dead body. So if a dead body's in your firehouse or anywhere else, leave it alone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just checked. I've got a total of 6 cases, and there may be additional legal proceedings that have spun out of this because a couple of people lost their job. There may be some things. I try to keep track of all the suits involving the fire service. I inevitably miss some, but I've got 6 related to this particular incident, and none of them are criminal. So at least to the best of my knowledge, and certainly if anybody out there has better information, send me the information. But as best I can tell, there was no criminal charges. There very well could have been, and in other states, there may very well have been.